You're watching AWANI's Selecta with me, Ibrahim Sani. This show is an aggregator of all the things that has happened over the past week and trying to conclude it or comprise it into a short snippet for you to enjoy. Hopefully, in this next 10 to 15 minutes, you can see what's interesting on this channel. And if you want to go deeper, you can then select those shows and go deeper and watch those kind of shows. And of course, this week, one of the bigger interviews that we had was a really long one with three very important luminaries in the democracy circle, the political science circle. On Let's Talk with Rewcastle-Brown, we had two-part episodes of the interview with three individuals: Terence Gomez of University Malaya, Ross Tapsell of Australia National University, as well as Ben Sofian of Merdeka Centre. They discuss in two parts the convergence of democracy and what we need to do to ensure that we have a full and complete understanding, or at least attempt to have that kind of understanding into the workings of democracy. Here's a snippet of that particular interview.
Well, first on the issue of policy, the best test was the midterm review of the 11th Malaysia Plan, which was tabled by Mahathir himself, prepared by the Minister of Economic Affairs under Azmin. Now, the 11th Malaysia Plan was prepared by Najib. This would have been an ideal moment for them to say, I've got something different. And I looked at the 11th Malaysia Plan review, and I didn't see anything fundamentally different. That itself is a red flag.
I mean, they took wholesale Najib's assumptions about the economy, what can be done, and just carried on with it.
No, that's not true. What they did do was they did talk about institutional reforms. But my focus is more on economic reforms. One core example is the Bumiputra economic empowerment policy. Now, that was introduced by Najib when he came to power in the second term. He had lost a lot of support, and he said, okay, I've lost a lot of support. And Utusan carried it. Apa lagi Cina mau? That was a very telling statement. And Najib's response to that was, let's introduce a new Bumiputra policy, the Bumiputra economic empowerment policy. Now, this was diametrically opposed to what he had said when he first came to power, and he said, actually, we have to rethink affirmative action. In fact, he even once announced, we're going to stop it, until there was a backlash from right-wing groups, and then he reintroduced it. It was very responsible of Najib to have done that.
That was on Let's Talk with Rewcastle-Brown. Also on Let's Talk, we discuss the very essence of democracy. We ask ourselves three fundamental questions. Why are there so few democracies in Southeast Asia? Why is democracy just another word for majoritarianism? And democratization? What must be done? These three questions were asked to a panel of guests, including Tan Wah Piao, a 1970s Singapore student activist, Maung Zarni, a UK-based Burmese or Myanmarese scholar, and Pavin Chachavalpongpun, the associate professor at the Center for Southeast Asian Studies at Kyoto University. The conversation with the three of them revolves around the three questions and how they plan to invoke the kind of mental instigation for us to answer those questions. Let's take a look into some of the snippet of that interview.
So let's put the conference aside for a while, and Wabia, answer me this. I mean, you've been in exile for over 4 decades now, watching Southeast Asia from where you were, part of the 70s student movement, the radical student movement. We had that in all countries of the region. Are you surprised by the trajectory of some of our countries?
The best news in the region is certainly Malaysia, where you have a regime change without a single bullet being fired. And it was a very, very smooth transition by taking the correct box during the election process. And that, I call it a beacon for democracy. It's something which Southeast Asians should aspire to.
Right, but that's the positive story, is a recent one. But we've also had breakthroughs in the past. We had EDSA in the Philippines in the 80s. We had the Reformasi movement in Indonesia. Perhaps a really good example of success, potentially. Thailand has had many movements towards democracy and reversals. Pavin, how do you see this? I mean, Is there something about Southeast Asia that just militates against us embracing and holding on to democratic change?
Well, I guess, looking back at Southeast Asia, there has been a lot of ups and downs, throughout the past decades. Partly because of the different developments within each country. For example, for Thailand, again, one step forward and then two steps back, we have democratization in the 1990s. But since the rise of Thaksin, at the beginning of 2000, 2001, he became a threat to the power position of the elites. And look at what happened to Thailand right now.
On my particular show, the Notepad, Notepad with me, Ibrahim Sani, the Cambodia 47 remains to be my focus. I spoke with the MP of Julau, Larry Sung, just before he left for Cambodia with the families to meet the Cambodia 47 detainees. We spoke at length about the kind of plans that are in store, the kind of reactions also from Wisma Putra, as well as the Foreign Ministry and International Cooperative Affairs of Cambodia, and the kind of immediate steps to take following this revelation by the press. Here's my short conversation with Larry Sung on Notepad.
Thank you, Ibrahim. Actually, since our last conversation, we have been given tremendous support from the media coverage, both in Malaysia and in Cambodia. And there has also been an outpouring of support from members of the public, as well as from NGOs in Cambodia, supporting and looking into this issue. We have recently been given approval by Wisma Putra to visit Cambodia tomorrow, and the Cambodia counterparts, their courts, have also given us permission. So we are actually looking at this closely. We're monitoring the situation closely. And also, I believe that the Cambodian authorities have been very helpful in this issue. Only yesterday, one of their senior members of cabinet, senior minister, has also visited the prison to visit the detainees. So I think by tomorrow we will have a better picture about what's the latest situation on this issue.
That was my conversation with Larry Sung. If you want to watch that particular interview, just head on to AstroAwani.com and search for Notepad. It's also on YouTube. This week on Observing ASEAN, the conversation is revolving around Thai princess and her bid to become a PM candidate for her party. Of course, it's now been struck down. Both Rizal and I tried to examine what this means to the democracy that is currently happening in Thailand and how the royalty institution still prevails over the plight of the people there and how the majority still needs to listen to the palace.
Like you said, soft power, soft diplomacy, people-to-people contact is very, very fundamental points of diplomacy and friendship. Diplomats comes and go, politicians comes and go, foreign ministers comes and go, but people, and this is what we're trying to do, all year round, to promote people-to-people contact, people-to-people understanding, because that would create trust and confidence between countries, and it would provide a very firm, and long-standing foundation of any bilateral relation for any two countries. And for this reason, we have, apart from this Thai food, Thai cuisine project, we are going to organize a Thai film festival in Malaysia for the first time. We did it once, but it's only in Kuala Lumpur. But we are going to do it, in KL as well as in Penang. And it's a huge project. And central to this project is to promote people-to-people understanding.
That is the conversation that is taking place on Observing ASEAN with Rizal and myself, Ibrahim. Finally, the big thing that happened this week is, of course, the out-of-court settlement between PAS and PAS's president, Hadi Awang, with British-based journalist Clare Rewcastle-Brown, the editor of Sarawak Report. I got Clare over the phone to discuss a little bit about the out-of-court settlement and whether or not she feels vindicated and what this means to her story and why that story is still up on Sarawak Report, even when there was an out-of-court settlement between Hadi and Clare. Okay, Clare, I just want to understand a little bit better. Do you think that they should provide the evidences or you should provide the evidences because you're making these kind of claims?
Well, the evidence that I put into my court case is public, and it contains a considerable amount of material. In particular, I detail in that court case evidence of transfers of money from UMNO personnel into PAS accounts. There's evidence of transfers of money, and there is the evidence that a senior PAS personnel, Nick Abda, acknowledged that money was going from UMNO to PAS. I'm not here to give every sort of check and cash transaction that went through PAS. I'm not in a position to do that. PAS, on the other hand, is. So why don't they open up their finances? Why didn't they do that from the very beginning?
So that was a conversation between myself and Clare Rewcastle-Brown, the Sarawak Report editor. Of course, you can watch that interview on astroawani.com/notepad or just search for Notepad on our app, or the Astro AWANI app that you can get on Google Play and the Apple App Store. That's it from me this week. Of course, what we compile on AWANI's Selecta is just a short snippet of the bigger news and bigger events that are happening this week on our shows. But if you want to have an entire offering of the things that has happened here, just head on to our website and search for all the great news that we have put for you up there. Also, again, we are very interested to hear what you think of the events and the current shows that we are offering on our platform. Just hit us up on our Facebook page or on our Twitter at 501awani and discuss with us your thoughts about how to improve our offerings. That's it from me this week. Until next time.